Okay, this is the sixth week. We're starting on chapter 8. Um, okay, we need to start thinking about how we're going to do the online uh, counseling. I need to know. I need to know whether you have Zoom. I'm guessing you have Zoom because, well, anyway, I'm guessing you have Zoom. But if you have any other, Facebook has an face-to-face uh, platform. Who else does? Skype, Duo. So if you have any of those, send me an email and tell me if there are any of you out there that don't have any way to communicate with somebody else except for face to face. If you can't see their faces, if it would be great if we could all do Duo, Zoom, or Skype, or Facebook. I'm not sure what the Facebook thing is. Yeah, tell me if you don't have any of that stuff. If there's no way you can do any face-to-face stuff, because we're certainly not going to go into the classroom this semester. And that's really something that we need to do. You need to practice this. You need to see if you can do counseling. Counseling is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not like having a conversation at a basketball game. You need to pay attention to your clients. Some people just can't do it. Some people have so much baggage in their own backgrounds that they can't do it. I had a colleague once upon a time who decided that they had a PhD, but they decided that they wanted to counsel, and they started a counseling program. And the very first class taught them they had a trauma in their own lives, and it came out that first in that first class, and they were in counseling for about 18 months after that. So it's not that everybody can do this. Some of you may have problems, and if that's the case, lots and lots of things you can do in psychology besides counseling. There are lots of things you can do in psychology on the reservation. So this is something that we need to think about. I want you to practice. I want you to see what it's like. This is one of the reasons why you need to turn in your character histories so that we can start counseling. We'll probably do this about the eighth week, ninth week, maybe the 10th week. It really all depends on how quickly I can get through this stuff. So today we're talking about chapter 8, expressing understanding. So yeah, just go ahead and email me if you don't have the capability of doing face-to-face counseling on online. It's going to have to be online. Then drop me an email and let me see how many of you are out there that won't be able to do that. Being empathic involves connecting with clients by attuning to their thoughts and feelings. Of what is shared, one must consider the content of what you're hearing, the feelings that are in what your client is saying, and the possible meanings behind it. A lot of times, people don't realize it, but they're dropping hints about a problem they don't want to think about. They have practiced all their lives or ever since the trauma occurred, not to deal with it, not to think about it. And sometimes they drop hints. Uh, Freud talked about these. He called them Freudian slips. Or he would ask them about their dreams, and it would come out in their dreams, or it would come out usually as a hidden message in their dreams. According to Norcross, the empathic practitioner attends to what is said and is at the periphery of awareness as well as what is said and is the focal awareness. Excuse me. Empathy is seeing the world as that person sees it, not as you would see it if you were in their situation. Feeling the way that person feels about the situation, understanding the meaning that the person is giving to events, grasping the assumption that influences their particular worldview. They're being empathic. By being empathic, a practitioner can learn to connect with people from different backgrounds and experiences. And this is one of the things that I probably should reiterate this more often. If you're having an emotional reaction to what your client is saying, empathy is fine. Empathy is understanding what they're feeling. But if you're having an emotional reaction to what they're saying, then potentially you are suffering right along with them. That's not what empathy means. Empathy means that you understand, that you hear, that you can understand the feelings that they're dealing with, not that you're feeling exactly the same feelings that they're dealing with. If you're a counselor and you have that type of reaction to your clients, then what eventually is going to happen is that you're going to burn out very, very quickly because emotions can be potentially painful. So one of the things that you need to be aware of is that if you are so sensitive to other people's feelings that you feel the same thing that they do, then you're probably a little bit too sensitive for this for counseling. By being empathic, a practitioner can learn to connect with people from different backgrounds and experiences. The essence to building a client-practitioner relationship depends on whether the client feels understood. Clients will not share personal thoughts and feelings unless they feel understood. If a practitioner can establish a sense of empathic understanding with the client, they're more likely to build a therapeutic relationship. Let me give you an example. The other day, a insurance adjuster came. You may or may not know the derecho blew through here. A derecho is an inland hurricane, and we had one in Iowa back in August, and it blew through here about 6 weeks ago. It blew through here and tore down a lot of the trees, knocked a hole in our roof. So an insurance adjuster came out, and I was talking to him, and I didn't mean to get into this deep a conversation, but as we were talking along, I was making eye contact, and I was listening to what he was saying, and I was nodding my head, and by golly, he got into some of the problems that he had in his life, and I was thinking at the time, why do people tell me this stuff? And the answer is because I listen empathically. Of course, I didn't feel the same things he did, but I understood the things that he was saying. And just like Oprah over here, people tell me things, and I'm not sure why. I get into some pretty long conversations sometimes with individuals. So that's what being empathic is all about, is being able to show the individual that you're listening. Expressing empathy means communicating an understanding of another person's experience, their behavior, their viewpoint, the meanings, and the feelings. Empathy involves restating in your own words your understanding of what the client is expressing. And of course, I do that automatically, and that has gotten me into trouble from time to time. Long conversations that I didn't mean to have. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding because the client feels understood, they're more likely to be open and trusting, to share more of their thoughts and feelings, to help clients who are having trouble expressing themselves. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding, they are validating the client's experience. It shows the client that the practitioner accepts and understands the client's experiences and concerns. This is especially important if the client has been told that their point of view is incorrect due to an abusive relationship. Let me give you another example. I had a colleague when I was teaching up in Montana on the Fort Belknap Reservation. I had a colleague that her husband wouldn't allow her to talk. She was an English teacher and a speech teacher, and her husband wouldn't let her talk. So every time we started to have a conversation, I couldn't get a word in edgewise because she had built up so many words that she wanted to say, but wasn't able to say it as far as her husband was concerned. He was a bully, and he wouldn't let her talk. I'm surprised that she's still with him, but she is still with him, and our conversations used to go on for hours, mainly because she needed to get her feelings out, and of course she was emotionally abused to some extent. Students often feel awkward or uncomfortable trying to express empathic understanding. Most societal norms don't allow people to talk about feelings. Nodding and saying, uh-huh, is less personal, of course. And of course, that is the saddest thing you've ever seen. This lady trying to high five and being rejected. When reflecting content, practitioners restate their understanding of what the client has said. This reflection of the client's reality indicates to the client that the practitioner is trying to understand. Are you saying, what I hear you saying is, as I understand it, it sounds like. Practitioners must show that they are attuned to a client's emotional experiences, and they can do this by reflecting feelings. Besides what the client is saying, the client's feelings can be discerned from their body language, their tone of voice, and their facial expressions. And this is, I'm not sure who this person is, but as you can see, she's saying yes, but from her tone of voice, I assume, and her facial expressions, we know that she's angry. She's saying yes in an angry manner. Reflecting feelings may be accompanied by a softer voice or leaning forward to imply deeper connection with what the client is expressing. More firmness if the client is expressing negative emotions like anger, disgust, or dismay. Getting the client's feelings wrong is all right. And this is tough for a lot of counselors because they think that they have to get everything right. They have to be right every time. I have had clients that I didn't get anything right at all, and they just loved coming back to me because they loved telling somebody that they did something wrong. They were kind of in abusive relationships, so every time I would try to interpret what they were saying to me, they would say, no, 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 that's not it. And by golly, I felt like the dumbest person in the world, but that's actually exactly what they needed. As long as you share your hunches in a tentative voice, clients will probably feel comfortable correcting you. Now, the reality is that I've lived in a lot of different places. I've lived in Germany and Japan. We've moved all over the United States. I've lived on two different Indian reservations. I've lived in black communities. I've lived in Hispanic communities. I've lived in Mississippi. I've lived in Ohio and Texas 3 times, in California 4 times. Where else have I lived? My goodness, we lived in right outside of Washington D.C., Nebraska, Iowa, Montana. I've lived in a lot of different places, Oklahoma, and wherever you go, a lot of times you don't really understand what's going on, and most people are willing to tell you when you're wrong. And of course, that's what you have to expect from your client. If you do it in a comfortable way, they will. If you do it with a tentative voice, a lot of times the clients will correct you, and they're very nice about it. That's happened to me a myriad of times. Even my students will correct me on the at Dene College, and I appreciate that. I want to be corrected if I am incorrect. That's the only way I can learn. So, as a counselor, you need to be willing to to understand that you're not going to always be right. Some feelings are not as acceptable in select cultures as in others, so you have to be kind of careful. You have to understand what can and can't be said, or the feelings that you're trying to get them to express. Sometimes they won't even mention those emotions, even if they're feeling them. So what I want you to do, I'm going to give you what the client said, and I want you to come up with a rejoinder to what they said, and then I'll show you what the book wanted what the book wanted you to say. The client, you know, I haven't heard from any of them. If they are busy, they could at least email me. Okay, I've given you 10 seconds. I guess that's enough. I hope you came up with something really good. This is what the book wanted you to say. It sounds like you feel sad about that. The client sounding angry and speaking with a tight jaw. I feel like we just aren't getting anywhere. He's talking about you, of course. And this is what the book wanted you to say. You seem to be feeling impatient with me and our progress. See, we can make mistakes. People make mistakes. People don't live up to other people's expectations, including counselors, and that's okay. Um, this person's angry. They may be looking for an excuse not to come back again. The client on a team. Some of the people on this team just aren't carrying their weight. And the book wanted you to say, I'm guessing you're feeling kind of frustrated. The client, a family member looking scared. When they start fighting and yelling, I just run up to my room. And this is what the book suggested. I wonder if you feel kind of scared. Client, yesterday out of the blue, I was one of the people they laid off. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And the book wanted you to say, wow, what shocking news. You look like you're feeling quite worried and upset. In common conversation, many people believe that they are reflecting feelings but are actually expressing thoughts, opinions, or judgments. This is usually because the individual is saying, I feel that instead of I feel, followed by an expression of feeling. I feel that you aren't paying attention to me. That shows thought or judgment. I feel that this assignment is too hard. That's another thought or judgment. I feel that you children should clean your room. That's a directive, of course. I feel that you always misunderstand me. That's another thought and judgment. I feel that this group is terrific. That's another thought and judgment. I feel that you have lots of strengths. Thought and or judgment. In families and groups, practitioners may encourage members to reflect feelings. Especially in family situations, the practitioner can ask how they think someone else in the family feels. Often, the problem in groups is that situations are engendering feelings that are not being expressed or acknowledged. It is possible to reflect both content and feelings in the same sentence. Using this skill allows the practitioner to include more information in their reflective comment. Can you believe it? She just left me a note telling me to leave. She hadn't said anything about leaving. And this is what the book wanted you to say. It sounds like you were shocked when your wife told you that she wanted you to leave. Ever since I was laid off, I just mope around. I am just at a loss. This is what the book wants you to say. So, in a way, you are grieving about losing your job. Group at a picnic where one person didn't show up and didn't let them know. It seems like most of you are feeling hurt and a little angry that Marianne didn't show up at the picnic. Probably they wouldn't say it that way. It is no fun to watch football games since Dad left. And they wanted you to say, so before your dad left, the two of you used to watch football games together, and now you feel sad and really miss him whenever the football games are on. Summarizing involves listening to considerable information provided by the client and communicating understanding of that information. Sometimes clients have so much information to share that practitioners listen for some time before making a reflecting comment. In the dominant culture in the United States, it is considered impolite to interrupt. But after taking in masses of information from the client, it is considered appropriate for the practitioner to interrupt in order to summarize. I am really trying hard in school, but I can't seem to get the grades that I want. And this is what the book wanted you to say. You sound discouraged because even though you are working hard, you are disappointed with your grades. When I am angry with my friend, I tell her how I feel, and then she does the same thing again. And the book wanted you to say, it sounds like you are unhappy because your friend has ignored what you told her about how you feel. And then it's gone. uh, At the beginning of a session, as I remember our last meeting, we focused on how distressed you felt about your wife's roller coaster behavior toward you. When she is friendly, you feel good and get more work done. And when she is distant, you worry and have trouble sleeping and focusing on work. Is that how you remember it? And summarizing at the end of a session, we have discussed both sides of the issue and noted the pros and cons of each direction we could go. I appreciate how difficult this discussion has been for some of you. It appears that some members of the group seem to be troubled when people disagree with each other. Summarizing during a session with a group, everyone in the group seems relieved that we have agreed to keep all the information confidential. Summarizing at the end of a family session, Jamie and Mary, you seem to be ready to take charge of some of the family problems. It has been hard to disagree with your children on what should happen next. I can imagine that you children are upset because you think your opinions don't count. Reflecting meaning is when a practitioner expresses their understanding of the underlying meaning of what the client is discussing. Reflecting meaning is not as straightforward as understanding content or feelings. To understand meaning, practitioners need to not only be good observers of the behavior and tone that accompanies the content, but also must listen for the possible meaning a client is giving to a situation, an action, a thought, and a feeling. When working with clients who come from different backgrounds than your own, it is particularly important to express your tentative understanding of their meaning. For example, a student from a Chinese or Chinese American family must always get excellent grades or be considered a disgrace to the family. Now, this isn't true of all South Asians or East Asians, but it is true of people from China, especially from China. If you're dealing with somebody from Thailand or Laos or Vietnam, uh, actually, Koreans are more like the Chinese. But if you're dealing with an individual from another country other than China, then potentially this isn't true. Client wringing her hands, and looking worried. I thought we had a good marriage until my husband told me that he lost his job and had spent our family money on seeing call girls. We are very religious and want to put this marriage back together. You need to reflect the meaning. And this is what they wanted you to say. I hear you value your marriage at the same time and at the same time are shocked and worried about your husband's behavior. Is that right? I guess so. Counseling group member, I really enjoy spending time with the man I am dating, but my job is so demanding these days that I am feeling stressed and worried about getting everything done. And this is what they wanted you to say. It sounds like you really value, my goodness, time with George and also want to go do a good job at work. Reflecting meaning, family member, since Bob the father lost his job, it seems like we go from one stress to the next all the time. It is like everyone is worried most of the time, not at all like it used to be. And this is what they wanted you to say. So the stress related to Bob being unemployed is affecting everyone. Sounds like you are longing for the fun times you used to have in your family. Task group member, finishing this project is taking forever. I am sick of having to do so much extra work. I wonder if it is worth it. And this is what they wanted you to say. You sound frustrated and kind of discouraged too. It sounds like you wonder if the project is as important as you once thought. Is that right? How are the rest of you feeling? When developing a relationship, it is important to deal directly with diversity variables. For many clients, having a worldview similar to that of the practitioner is more important than differences in age, in ethnicity, in race, in gender, in sexual orientation, in education, and physical differences. The reality is, I have a lot of friends and acquaintances. One of my best friends on the in the Navajo Nation is an individual in his late 30s. I actually just turned 40, and I'm 70, and he's native, of course. Um, so, and he's male. He is male. He's heterosexual. Um, so you can be friends with just about anybody. They Some people tease Patrick Blackwater and I. They call us the twins. Patrick's not the one I was just talking about, but we're always joking with each other. So that's you can be and Patrick's a puppy. He's just a young guy. You can have friends, you can have acquaintances, you can have clients. You can identify with your clients. I tend to identify with younger people just as well as I identify with people my age, and sometimes I can't identify with people my age. They just haven't been through the same stuff that I have. Language can prove to be a barrier even when the practitioner and the client speak the same language. One may speak in slang, one may speak using a great deal of jargon. The client may be from a region that the practitioner is not familiar with. Different generations may use the same words and phrases differently. And a good example of that is hookup, of course. Hookup, now it means to have intercourse, to have sexual intercourse. But once upon a time, it just meant dating. And before that, well, I guess that's those are the two meanings. So you just never know how things are going to change. If you watch an old movie from the 1940s, when they said somebody made love to somebody else, it doesn't mean that they had intercourse. It just means that they were making out. Maybe they weren't even kissing. They were just flirting with each other, and that's what they called making love. And of course, in time, it changed its meaning. So I'm sure that there are lots of words that you guys use that I would think, well, wait a minute, that's not right. And you would probably say, wait a minute, he just said something really embarrassing, and he probably thinks it means something else. And that's okay. Just because, yeah, and you guys live in Arizona, and I'm military, so we had all those words. I'll tell you what, the military has more words for having sex with somebody than anybody you can possibly imagine. Almost the entire vocabulary of the English language, as weird as that sounds. Anyway, okay. It is important to express empathy in cases where the client is from a different ethnic group. They have their age is different than yours. Their gender is different than yours. Their religion is different than yours. They have different physical abilities. Conveying that you completely understand how they feel is rarely accurate, and it's hardly useful. It really doesn't pay. It just makes you feel better. It doesn't make them feel better at all because they know that you probably don't have a clue how they feel, how they, just because you say it doesn't mean that it's true. Your goal is to understand how the client feels, what they experienced, and what meaning that experience had for them. Empathic understanding increases the client's sense of being understood. It takes considerable courage to openly discuss concerns with a stranger, and that is true. That's fairly true. It's not hard for me. I strike up conversations with people in grocery lines. It doesn't bother me a bit to talk to people, to talk to just about anybody. And doggone it, sometimes I get in these long conversations, and my wife just looks at me like I'm some kind of insane person. The truth is that I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert. So it's not easy for me. Okay, so one of the things that you need to do is you need to tell me whether you have access to something that would be online. You can do it by your telephone. I can imagine people walking around having counseling sessions, talking on their iPhones or whatever. So if you have a Duo or Skype, or you can Zoom, some of you have a hard time getting um, connected. I guess you don't have internet. We need to talk about this because this is one of the things that we need to do. I do have an alternative plan. I didn't want to use it. I want to use it as little as possible. But there is an alternative plan for those of you who don't have online capabilities or don't have Duo or Zoom. Zoom doesn't work for you. We need to talk about that. I can do this. I did this last semester. I actually taught this class last semester. So when we were going online, when COVID first hit. So there is a plan B that will work. We just need to know, okay? I'm thinking that I would like to get 10 sessions in. The other thing that you need to do, you need to work on that character of yours. You need to figure out what this person's problem is. Remember, it can't be a problem that you actually have or you have had in the past. That may cause a remission, and you may start suffering from whatever that was again. And we certainly don't want to hurt anybody. This is just practice. This is just you finding out if you can actually do the counseling, or if it's going to bother you too much, then maybe you need to get into a different line of work. Hopefully in psychology as well. But we need to know. You need to know whether you can do this or not. As my colleague discovered, toughest lady you ever met, and then all of a sudden, she had one counseling session to get her master's degree so that she could counsel, and that's all she wrote for about 18 months. So I mean, this happens to everybody. These kinds of things happen to everybody. She'd been repressing ideas and repressing problems, and it's just one of those things. It's some of us are resilient and we can get over those things, and other individuals they can't. They never deal with them, and of course that's what needs to happen. We need to deal with all the problems that we've had, face them, and talk about them. So okay, I'll see you guys next week. I'll get the quiz up. I've got it sitting right over here, so I'll get it. I'll get it up. Sorry about last week. I was I was kind of away from my computer, and I think I hit a wall. I had a tough summer. I had to teach two classes that aren't my favorite classes. I taught methods of research methods, and I also taught stats. So that wasn't fun even a little bit. Not for me. I haven't taught stats in probably 10 years, 11 years. Anyway, okay, I'll see you guys next week. Stay safe. Please stay safe.